Well, folks, good day to you one and all, and welcome to what's probably going to be one of the premier races for 2023, the MSA GT3 Series for 2023. We're in round number 4. We're coming to you live from the second gear production studio down here in Veldhoven in Cape Town. My name's Gary Fleming. I'm going to be with you for the 10-minute qualifying and the 90-minute race. And joining me, Mike side, the voice of West Province Motorsport, Frankie Hennis. Frankie, good evening to you and welcome to the second gear studio. Tonight is going to be a blast.
I think tonight's going to be absolutely brilliant. We come to you from Sebring, that is in Florida, at the Sebring International Raceway. And they currently hold the MSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship here, the 12 Hours of Sebring, the FIA World Endurance Championship, the GT3 World Championship of America, the Trans Am Series, the US Pro 2000, and the USF 2000. There's lots of other racing that also happens here at Sebring International Raceway. And the outside temperature is 22 degrees, clear skies, 11 km/h wind. The track temperature 24, not that much, and the circuit is just over 5.7 kilometers long.
So here we go. Yes, some of the top riders that you're going to be seeing out there this evening. That's Troy Dolanchik Jr. There's another one of the young guns. That's Dario Busi. We've got Jonty Weiss out there as well. Luke King, one of the frequent flyers. Chase Herald, and then also the likes of one of the older hands, Sandro Bakari.
Yes, Sandro Bakari is out there with his car, Captain Peter van der Spey in the BMW, busy working his way around. Leighton Fourie in the BM did very, very well at the last one that we had, did Leighton Fourie. There's Leon van Wyk in the Porsche, busy working his way around. Remember, it's a 10-minute qualifying session, and there is Jason Kutsia in the BMW with a mint wrapping color scheme on, but of course he represents Durant Motorsport.
3 more of South Africa's best. Our local man Yuri Umpi Swart, Byron Mitchell, brilliant out there from the Durant Motorsport side of the world. Multiple South African main circuit champion Johan Fourie, present V8 man of the moment Julian Familiares, also sporting the Durant Motorsport colors.
Stephen Wessels also out there with the 27 Audi, the Audi R8 with the V10 motor. Stephen Cakebread in the 65 BMW, busy working his way around. Is Stephen. Then Jacques Botha in that black, red, blue and green Mercedes-Benz color. Then Duncan Murray in the yellow and white Ferrari, busy working his way around as the times start coming through. And so far, provisional pole with a 159.618 belongs to Byron Mitchell.
Yep, and then 81 thousandths of a second behind him is that man, Umpi Swart. Stephen Wessels once again. Now, I must admit, we don't have too much background information on Stephen Wessels. He finds himself provisionally on the 2 front rows of the grid. Julian from the RS once again right in there. And another man that you can't count out is Jason Kutsia. But the train driver, Tristan de Nobrega. Tristan's out there and is in the front 3 rows of the grid based on their first flying lap so far.
Yeah, it's going to have to shake that nickname. Is de Nobrega. Luke King in the Dot Soft BMW, having his own problems out there. There's a 23 car. No, it's not the 23 car, but it is Luke Lucchesi. It is a 24 car, as a matter of fact, of Lucchesi. That's busy working his way around. He's so far in P8. Leighton Fourie, 0.4 of a second off Byron Mitchell. And at this point in time, 15 drivers within a second.
Yep, Johan Faurie's right in there as well, and the open wheel racer Jonty Weiss just behind him. That's a completely different looking color scheme, that with Jacques Botha also there in the...
Yeah, here he comes. That is Jacques Botha, busy working his way around with that Mercedes-Benz. 0.7 of a second off Byron Mitchell is Botha in that Mercedes-Benz of his, with that famous color scheme that he loves in that Merc of his, busy working his way around. Luke King is in the pit lane with his BMW. 6 minutes and 25 seconds done, and as we so speak, Byron Mitchell gets pipped by Yuri Swart Jr. 159.600 by Umpi Swart. He's the quickest man out there. He's 0.017 seconds quicker than what Byron Mitchell is at this point, with nearly 7 minutes done. Familiares is 0.4 of a second off Swart, and then de Nobrega is right in there as well. He
Sorry,
did a
Frankie, let me just show you there. Dario Busi, you see he's gone and stopped on the track. That means he's finished his 2 flying laps, and he's outside of the top 15 is Dario Busi.
Yeah, he's 1.2 off the pole sitter. At this point is Dario Busi. There's Leon van Wyk, busy coming around with the Porsche. He's Van Wyk, and he sits there in P18, nearly 1.5 seconds off Umpi Swart's time.
Well, there's still 4 people that have not put up a time yet. That's Kwanda Mokoena, Sandro Bakari, Graham Stephen, and Noor Hendricks that have not put up times yet, though. So There's in fact 27 that is in with 2 minutes 25 still to go. Tristan de Nobrega. Okay, so those of you that didn't see the last race, Tristan de Nobrega had this long train of cars behind him, and he got dubbed the train driver. Well, we spoke about this train of cars, but he was right at the front of the train of cars all the time, and he just kept on the line and just did a brilliant job out there, and hence he was dubbed then eventually the train driver. And well, we say it with tongue in cheek, but he's very quick, he's very, very good, and wouldn't be surprised if he holds onto that second row of the grid. It looks like just about everybody has finished their flying laps. Troy Dolenchik still to come through. Let's see, can Troy Dolenchik go any quicker? Nope, his time is up anyway. So Troy Dolenchik, wow, he finds himself in 15th position. But if you think about it, the top 16 are all within 0.9 of a second. There's nothing in it.
Yeah, sure, it's going to be intense. There's a minute and 5 seconds left as Leon van Wyk in the Porsche works his way around. 1.4 off Swart at this point is Van Wyk, and with 50 seconds left, I don't think he's going to be able to improve too much, keeping in mind that the top 16 is within 1 second of each other.
Yep, the only other man that's still out there is in fact Noor Hendricks. There comes Noor Hendricks, and he's got just on 30 seconds to be able to complete a lap. And I don't think he's going to be able to do that either, because he's still got a bit of a distance to go. This man might get another time up. Yes, he will. Leon van Wyk. Does he manage to go any quicker? Nope, it doesn't seem like it. 1.4 seconds off, and no chance for him. Let's see. Will Noor Hendricks make it through in time? Wow.
Yep. Top
Noor
10.
Hendricks up into the 10th position, knocking down Johan Ferrie, John Device, Jacques Botha. Man, what a time. Well done, Noor Hendricks. And that is our time that's up for that. Let's have a look at the grid.
17 drivers within a second. Pole position, Yuri Swart. On his outside, Byron Mitchell, row 2. Junior Familiaris and Tristan de Nobrega. Row 3, Stephen Vessels, Luke Lucchesi. Row 4, Jason Kutsia, Luke King. Row 5, Leighton Fourie and Noor Hendricks.
Johan Ferrie and John Weiss on row 6. Jacques Botha and Chase Herald on row 7. Row 8 is Zach Foster, Troy Dolenchik. Row 9, Willem Botha and Dario Busi. Leon van Wyk and Peter van der Spey. That rounds up the top 20 that is there on the grid.
Row 11, Raymond Duggan and JJ van der Merwe. Row 12 will be Thomas and Cakebread. And then in row 13, we still got Duncan Murray. And that is 25 cars. There might even be more of them that you just don't see on your screen.
There is, in fact, more. We've just got the top 25. Behind that is, in fact, Graham Stevens, Sandra Macquarie, and Kwando Makuna is the other man that's still out there as well.
Right, so Kwando Makuna is the man that is in last position. So this is going to be good stuff, as the Porsche iRacing safety car will lead them around Sebring International Raceway. Oh, Luke Lucchesi has not gridded yet, so let's hope he can get on.
Andrew Thomas gets onto the grid. Jason Kutsia's in there as well. All right, so still Graham Stephen that's not on the grid, and Kwando Makuna. The two of them in 26th and 28th position. Let's have a look a little bit further back. That's the two cars that's missing, and that's the guys that we're waiting to get there onto the grid. So almost 30 of South Africa's best.
Well, have a look at that. It's all Ferraris, Porsches, Audis, BMW, Mercedes-Benz cars, all out there. GT3 Series.
And who locks out the front row? Durant
Motorsport. Yep. And a big thanks to Canvas Intelligence, as the Porsche iRacing safety car leads them off. Canvas Intelligence, the sponsor for the GT3 MSA Series for 2023. A big thanks to one and all at Canvas Intelligence, and to Gary Fleming from the production side from second gear productions.
Well, this is going to be great stuff as they work their way around. Just waiting to see how this one's going to play itself out. I think that you're probably going to find that with so many very quick cars out there, I think that it's going to be a bit of a humdinger for that first couple of laps. I think it's going to probably, you're going to lose 1 or 2 or 3. Let's hope that it's only a small number of cars that we lose out on, and we don't lose the majority of the field in a major pileup.
So we'll get the track map up, then you'll see exactly where the safety car is leading this field of GT3 Series cars around. They're working their way now under the Mobile One Bridge. Durant Motorsport, Yuri Swart Jr., known to us as Oompie, in pole position with Byron Mitchell on his outside. Then another Durant Motorsport driver, Familiaris Julian, in P3. So Durant Motorsport has secured the first 3 positions on track so far.
Whoa, that's something else. Oompie Swart, Byron Mitchell, Julian Familiaris, just in the track driver to Nobriga, Steven Vessels, Luke Lucchese, Jason Gutierrez outside of the top 6, but still right in there with Luke King, Leighton Ferry, Noor Hendricks, brilliant. The 3rd fastest Porsche out there. The 4th fastest BMW being Jonty Weiss. The 4th fastest Ferrari is only in a 12th position, and that in fact being Johan Ferry.
So Johan sitting there in P12, and I think only 2 of the master drivers from the master series is in that top dozen. One is Johan Ferry, the other one in P6 of course is Luke Lucchese. So they are still busy working their way around. Just ask Gary to put the track map up, if you can see where the safety car is. That they're heading towards what they call the Lamar corner, and that is heading towards the end of the lap. So pretty soon we'll be getting this one underway. Through the final corner they come here at Sebring International Circuit and in Florida. The safety car is peeling off, and Yuri Swart will pull the pin any moment. No, it's not. I lie. That's not the... Is that the first corner they're going into? I think, as a matter of fact, Gary, no, you've got one more hairpin, then we go on to the main straight. My apologies.
You'll see here that you start with that long right-hander, and there's so many different lines that you can actually run through there. And yeah, that's actually a reasonable spot to make passing maneuvers, because if you can pressurize the guy in front of you enough, you can very easily get him to make a mistake at that point.
Right, now we have come to the final corner. The safety car pulls off. We go green with 90 minutes action here at Sebring International in Florida. Working their way down into turn number 1. It's Durant Motorsport for first, second and third. It's Yuri Swart from Byron Mitchell from Julian Familiaris. Then behind them is Tristan de Nobrega. Working his way through there, I see Leighton Ferry. And he is going one-on-one with Stefan Vessels. They are side by side, and it's Vessels that loses the tail end of that car, and Stefan in the Audi dropping down the leaderboard.
Yep, that cost him a good couple of positions. Oompie Swart, Byron Mitchell, Julian from the iRSA, Tristan Nobriga, first, second, third, fourth, fifth, exactly as they came off the line. But look at this gang of the cars in there behind that. Luke Lucchese, Luke King, Jacques Wood, Johan Ferry still in the mix. They're still running 2 abreast at this stage of the fight, that far down. It's the 27 car that's right at the back of the pack that is recovering, and I think that is Stephen Vessels that in fact dropped right out of it.
So working their way around, it's still Yuri Swart. You'll get the intervals between the drivers up, then you'll see exactly how close it is between all of them. Look at that. There is nothing separating the whole damn lot, all the way down to 22nd, which is now Andrew Thomas. But up front, it's Oompie Swart from Byron Mitchell. Luke Lucchese making his way through. He's 0.2 of a second off Leighton Ferry, and just ahead of Luke King. Now remember, Luke King did very well At the last one, if my facts are right, I think Luke King finished in that third position. There's Zach Foster sitting just ahead of Willem Botha and just behind Dario Busi is Foster. Familiaris is in that third position. The Durant Motorsport boys have locked out P1, 2 and 3. Swart Mitchell and Familiaris. The Ferrari, the Audi and the Ferrari. Then De Nobrega in P4 with a Porsche. Here they come through. Yuri Swart 203.084 is the quickest driver out there as Leon van Wyk works his way around.
Julian Familiaris putting the pressure there on Byron Mitchell. Got a bit of a gap between himself and Tristan De Nobrega, but another high-speed train. Let's have a look at that one. Jacques Botha, let's go on board with Jacques Botha. That's what it looks like when you've got 4 cars right in front of you. The ever-quick Luke King, the old master Luke Lucchesi, and the young gun, multi-talented, multi-championship bedecked Leighton Ferrari with Jason Kutsia just in front of that.
Jason Kutsia is the man that's in P5, and he's got them all racked and stacked in there behind him, all the way down to Jacques Botha, that is in that 9th position. That is the man we're riding on board with now, Jacques Botha in the 888 Mercedes-Benz, sitting 0.4 of a second off Luke King. That is right in there. There is Willem Botha. He's all the way down in P18 as Willem, and he is just behind Leon van Wyk, 0.2 of a second behind Van Wyk, and right on his case is the BMW of Peter van der Spey.
Yep, if you look in the mirror, you see on the right-hand top corner, just underneath the GT3 Series insignia, there you can see it's Peter van der Spey, Captain Peter van der Spey, that's directly in there behind him. So at this stage of the fight, they're all pretty close to one another. Leighton Ferrari closing on the back of Jason Kutsia.
Right there is Leighton Ferrari. He's coming up on the Mint Wrap Works and Durant Motorsport car of Jason Kutsia. They are side by side. Kutsia sits there on his left hand side, right up against the wall, and the line belongs to Leighton Ferrari, putting the move there on Kutsia and moving up into P5.
Another man that's also very close is this man, Troy Dolenchik. He's all over the back end there of Johan Ferrari, the young gun versus the old hand, and they're on the same pace.
Yeah, they're on that same pace, that's for sure. And then Chasey Herald and Jonty Weiss in P12 and 13. There they come. They've got more or less the same color schemes as these two, Herald and Weiss. Then Dario Busi 1.2 behind him. Then Zach Foster coming through. Right behind him you've got Noah Hendricks, and behind him there are 2 Porsches, one in the hands of Leon van Wyk, the other one in the hands of Willem Botha.
Captain Peter van der Spey directly behind that. Then is Raymond Duggan, and then Stephen Cakebread. A little bit further back we find Sandro Vicari in the Auto Italia colors. Then it's Stephen Vessels, the man that had the problem with the Audi earlier on, right at the beginning of this race. Graham Stephen, a lone Graham Stephen, all alone there at the back end of the pack. But once again, it's to the front end of the field. It's Yuri Swart that leads them out.
0.7 of a second between him and Durant Motorsport teammate Byron Mitchell. That's in that second position. And then 0.4 of a second between Mitchell and Julian Familiaris. So they're trying to get away here from De Nobrega. That's 1.8 behind the combination of Swart, Mitchell and Familiaris. Leighton Ferrari, watch out, he sits there just behind De Nobrega, and he wants that position from him. Here's Jason Kutsia. Behind Jason Kutsia we've got Luke Lucchesi, 0.3 of a second. There we see Luke King that sits there in that 8th position in the Doc Soft Racing BMW, and right behind him is that 888 Mercedes-Benz of Jacques Botha.
Everybody fancies having a go at the person in front of them and not worrying too much about the car that's directly behind them. It's all eyes up front and just keep on trucking. There's a good couple of battles further down the field as well. We go a little bit further down, there's Zach Foster, and that's one of the quick guys. Now Noah Hendricks, that started in 10th position, has dropped quite a long way down. He got himself down to 16th position at this stage of the fight. So not a good run for him so far. But Julian Familiaris at the top end of the field, closing there once again onto the back end of Byron Mitchell.
Gary, we've got a new train driver, and his name is Johan Fourie. He's got them all racked and stacked in there behind him. Chasey Herald, John Weiss, Dario Busi, Zach Foster, all the way down to Leon van Wyk. As a matter of fact, it is now no longer Johan Fourie. John Weiss is now that train driver that sits there in P12. He's got them racked and stacked all the way to P18.
Well, somebody's got to take that one for the evening. And, well, there you see. They're all right in there behind him. Oh, closing up. Oh, that's a little bit of a rub on the back bumper there. Dario Busi on the back of a Chase Herald. But luckily, they both live to fight another day.
So John Weiss in that 12th position. And Fourie is getting away from him, as a matter of fact. Right behind him, we have got Chasey Herald. There's Chase there. Right behind him is Dario Busi. Right on his case, Zach Foster. Followed there by Noah Hendricks and Willem Botha, and right on his case as well is Leon van Wyk. Leon all the way down in P18, and there's not much between Weiss all the way down to van Wyk.
All the original train drivers got to go up alongside him, so they're on double tracks. Oh, you almost did the cutback on that one. Leighton Fourie up into the top three ahead of Tristan de Nobrega. They've got a bit of a gap on Jason Kutsia, the multicolored car in there behind that, the BMW. That is Jason Kutsia. So the first to second is a bit of a gap. Second and third very close to one another. And then we've got this battle here as well with fourth and fifth, and that just a half a second between them. The other little battle that's getting pretty interesting, in fact, is Luke King. Now remember, Luke King can be one of the quickest out there. He's in 8th position. He's behind Luke Lekisi. Not a bad idea to sit behind the race driver SA24 entry of Luke Lekisi. He will probably take you towards the front end of the field if you can hold on to his pace.
Right, here they come down towards us. That's King. He's on the case of Lucchesi, but he's been hassled heavily there by Jacques Botha in the Mercedes-Benz, and Troy Dolacek. He's right in there as well, and catching them is Johan Fourie. This is a replay of the Mercedes-Benz of JJ van der Merwe that just got tagged there, but he slowed right down on the racing line and got nailed there by another driver out there that wasn't expecting him to go so slow.
There's another one with Andrew Thomas. Oh, definitely be a little bit of residual damage on that car. Back to the front end of the field, back to live. It's lap number 5. We 9.5 minutes into it. The Ferrari up front in the Durant Motorsport colors. The local man, Yuri Umpi-Swart.
Yuri Swart from Byron Mitchell, from Julian Familiaris, the boys of Durant Motorsport. At this point, they're saying we want to make this one our own. Leighton Fourie is there in P4. Behind him is Jason Kutsia. We go a bit further down to Jacques Botha, who has got Tristan de Nobrega all over his back bumper. Here comes Botha. Right on his case is that blue BMW of de Nobrega of Sujin Properties, and not far behind him, only 1.5 in P11, is Johan Fourie.
Stephen Vessel's making the move there on Raymond Duggan, and he's starting his fight back towards the front end of the field. More than a second now between that man Byron Mitchell and Umpi-Swart up front, but truthfully Horace has stayed pretty much a half a second away from him all day long so far. I believe that the next possible passing maneuver is going to come from this man, Luke Lucchesi, because Luke Lucchesi has stayed within 3/10 of Jason Kutsia, and he's just starting to put a bit of pressure now on Jason and say, come on buddy, you've got to move, because if Luke doesn't push the pace, Luke King that's in there behind him will, and Luke King's not under pressure from Jacques Botha. He's got 1.3 seconds, and remember Jacques Botha has got a small mirror, but he's a very big car in that mirror, and that is the young flyer Troy Dolacek, so he's got to watch the dark blue car behind him.
Now you see at this point Botha cannot afford to go over after the combination of Lucchesi and King, because he has to fend off Troy Dolacek, and he will know how quick and how fast this young man can be. So Dolacek sitting there in P10, only 0.2 of a second off Botha. There's the race driver, SA Esports and Pantera Racing man, Luke Lucchesi. He's striding the back bumper of the Mint Racing and Durant Motorsport BMW of Jason Kutsia, but he's going to have to go some because Luke King only 5/10 of a second behind Lucchese.
Yep, this battle still Troy Dolanchik on the move, but I do believe that Luke Lucchese is going for them. Oh, Jason closes him off. You're allowed to move once. I think he moved once and he made it stick. He's now got Luke Lucchese on the wrong line, and that brings Luke King into the game. And Luke King's now going to have a look at Luke Lucchese.
And coming in there behind them is Jacques Buerta and Troy Dolanchik. You just see the Mercedes-Benz and the BMW. There they come into view. Then behind them is Johan Fourie coming through, and Johan has got Jonty Weiss and Chase Herald right in there with him. So that's another fight for this group of cars. There's Jonty coming through, and right behind him is Chase Herald. Those cars look pretty much more or less the same. Then catching up to them, only 1.1 in P14 is Dario Bussi, who is the 2020 Volkswagen Polo Cup champion.
Well, this looks like it's going to become a four-way battle if we let's have a look out of the cockpit of Troy Dolanchik. Look at that. Directly in front of him, the multicolored car, as Frankie says, the black, red, green and blue version of a BMW. He's the fourth fastest BMW out there. That is Jean Buerta. Directly ahead of him is Luke Lucchese. Luke Lucchese and Luke King very, very close to one another. And then Jason Kutsia has not really got that much space behind him, because at this stage of the fight, Luke King's within 0.8 of a second of him.
Yeah, that Mercedes-Benz of Buerta at this point just trying to keep the Suzhine Properties BMW of Dolanchik very honest indeed, as they chase down Luke Lucchese. Lucchese, on the other hand, is chasing down Luke King, that sits there in P7, and he is 0.3 of a second off Jason Kutsia is Luke King, as we watch Dolanchik right there behind Buerta and Luke King right on the case there of Jason Kutsia.
Well, you know, 2 years back in this situation, you would have waited until Jason Kutsia makes a mistake. It's not like that anymore. Jason Kutsia has become pretty adept at iRacing, and you can't pressurize him into a mistake very easily. He's on the pace, and he's not going to be beaten out very easily.
Well, if I look at the top end of the field, Swat, Mitchell and Familiaris, they are crowding each other heavily as we still watch this one. Here comes Dolanchik. He had a look up on the inside there of Buerta. On the other hand, Luke Lucchese is getting closer to the combination of Kutsia and King. So he sits with that Porsche right there on their case, as he is now being hunted down here by Buerta and Dolanchik.
15 minutes just about gone with this one. How is the pit stops going to play into it? Well, we'll wait until we get to that point. Troy Dolanchik still very, very close. We're watching Luke King on the back end of Jason Kutsia, the dark blue car at the back. That is in fact Troy Dolanchik. But if you look at that snake with the black 1 at the front and the black 21, just a quarter of a lap in the top 24 cars.
Yeah, here they come around, and Kutsia has got them racked and stacked in a train of cars right in there behind him as we ride aboard with Dolanchik. He's the last driver in that train, and he's 3 seconds ahead of Johan Fourie that sits there in that 11th position. He's Dolanchik in the Suzhine Properties BMW. So we watch him. He's got the best seat in the house, keeping an eye on all of this because he knows he's got a serious buffer between himself and Fourie.
Yeah, Johan Fourie in the 3rd Ferrari out there on circuit, and Fourie battling to break into the top 10 in general, even with the qualifying and the practice as well. Why would you use a windscreen wiper?
I don't know, maybe they've got some little knoppy that sprays water on the window. I don't know. That's my word of the day, knoppy.
Luke King has a look up on the inside line, and I think Luke King, oh, look at this! All 5 of them together, Frankie. Something's going to go.
Oh, and the biggest loser there is Lucchese. He is the biggest loser in that one because Lucchese finds himself at the back of that train now. He's behind Botha and Dolacek.
Oh, look how close they all are to one another. Only because it's of the top 40 in South Africa that you can run that close. Oh, having a look up on the inside line and making it stick as well. And that brings also Troy Dolacek into play. Can they run this close lap for lap without something going wrong? Oh, I don't know.
You're going to have to see, because Botha made the move there on Jason Coetzee, made it stick, and now it's the other way around. Jason Coetzee says, no, I'm not going to allow this. I want my position back. And all of a sudden, Botha is now under attack here from Dolacek, and he pushed him off the circuit. There was contact, and Dolacek pushes Jacques Botha off the track.
That is a big turn up for this one, because that's one of the top contenders that's been taken completely out of that. And that's a pity. I just asked the question, can they run so close without something popping? Well, my question was answered.
You just said something has got to give, and there it happened.
It was just too close. It was just too close, unfortunately. Willem Botha a little bit further down. He's all over the back end of the young gun, Dario Busi, a man that's taken 2023 off from the main circuit racing and got himself into the books and is busy studying at university.
Yeah, that is John T. Weiss that's leading Dario Busi, Willem Botha, and the Ferrari of Noah Hendricks around. As we go back to this fight, and here comes Dolacek up on the inside of Jason Coetzee, and Jason Coetzee loses that position to Dolacek, and right on his case is Luke Lucchese, and now in the top 10, only 1.5 behind Lucchese, is the old horse himself, Johan Fourie.
Now we know from the 6-hour races, if anybody can sit right on your bumper lap for lap for lap for half an hour at a time, it's Troy Dolacek. The average driver just can't do it. You've got to look out the side windows to look for markers to try and get your braking points and what have you. Troy Dolacek's one of very few people that can get that right. But look what's behind him. It's called the problem. It's called Luke Lucchese.
It's called Luke Lucchese, and there's another problem behind Lucchese coming up. That's called Johan Fourie. You saw Lucchese have a look there at Jason Coetzee. He's showing himself here to Coetzee and say, come on buddy, you make one mistake and I'm going to move through. And of course we were watching all this from the rear camera of the Dolacek car. Now we ride aboard with Luke Lucchese, and the man in front of him there is to Run Motorsports Jason Coetzee, and just ahead of him is Dolacek. And Dolacek, let's have a look and see, he's now only 1.3 seconds off Luke King.
So Dolacek that found himself, I think he was also just outside the top 10 initially, now finds himself in a situation where he's working his way towards the front end of the grid and already up into 7th position.
It's a matter of interest. Swart and Mitchell have now broken the toe on Familiaris. He's 2.3 seconds behind Yuri and Byron. So they're busy getting away from him, and now all of a sudden he's battling to keep up with him. As we go back to this fight, here comes Lucchese. Lucchese, he says, now it's my turn to have a go with Jason Coetzee. Coetzee defending all he can, and this will allow Dolacek to get away, and Lucchese is coming through, and here comes Johan Fourie. Johan Fourie only 1.7 now behind the combination of Coetzee and Lucchese.
Well, let's have a look at the last times that they ran, and Johan Fourie on a 2-minute 0.6, Luke Lucchese on a 0.4, a 0.9 for Jason Coetzee. So that's why you can see Luke Lucchese closing on the back of Jason Coetzee. But you'll probably find after the next lap, looking at it visually, I agree with you, Frankie. I think Johan Fourie is actually closing on them. The only person to do a sub 2 minute is in fact Byron Mitchell.
Have a look here at the man in P11, Chase Herald. Look at, they are racked and stacked in there behind Chase Herald. John T. Weiss is in there. Dario Busi, Willem Botha, and Noah Hendricks. That's a combination of cars that you are looking at right now as the leaders are going further away, and all of a sudden Chase Herald, who's 2.8 behind Johan Fourie, has got them all in there. He's got 1, 2, 3, at least 4 cars that he's right in there behind him.
Luke Lucchese having another go here at the back end of Jason Coetzee. Jason last time closed off that line on the inside line. He's pretty confident this time. He doesn't close it off. He lets Luke Lucchese have a run up the inside of him. Is he confident enough under the brakes? He lets Luke Lucchese go through. He's hoping to be able to do the cutback. I think Luke Lucchese timed that very, very neatly and made that one stick. Frankie, we're already 22 minutes into the 1 hour 30. So are we going to be having pit stops around about the 45 mark? I would tend to think so.
I would say 50 to 55, anywhere in that 5-minute window, between 50 to 55. I think the guys are going to push it as long as they can, unless something gives. At this point in time, with nearly 23 minutes done in the 90, nothing is really given yet. Yes, it's been close, but when the bomb bursts, it's going to burst big time. At this point, that's not what these drivers will want as we ride aboard with Noah Hendricks. That's 0.6 of a second behind Willem Botha that you see there ahead of him. But Botha is right on the case of Dario Bussi, who's right on the case on the combination of Chase Herald and Jonty Weiss.
Yep. You see there we sit with Willem Botha. That's 0.4 of a second between himself and Dario Bussi. Jonty Weiss, the open wheel man from main circuit racing that is so quick around the island and all the different circuits around South Africa. And well, there he sits in the midst of some very, very big names. Keep an eye on the times of Byron Mitchell. Byron Mitchell doing sub 2 minutes. He did a 59.7. He's now done a 59.8. But Umpi Swart has had to now also come to the party and break the 2-minute barrier if he wants to keep Byron Mitchell out, because Byron Mitchell is now within striking distance under braking.
Yeah, Willem Botha still right on the case there of Dario Bussi, 0.4 of a second between them. Ahead of him we have got Jonty Weiss, and that group has been led there by Chase Herald. He leads that group of 5 cars down the straight and into turn number 1, the right-hander. There they go through turn number 1. It is Chase Herald from Jonty Weiss. Then behind Jonty Weiss is Dario Bussi, Willem Botha, and that black Ferrari of Noah Hendricks.
Oh, what a brilliant dice it is between them. Look at that. Nothing much after 24.5 minutes, 13 lap. That was on the dirt. That was a bit of a touchy one there for Dario Bussi. So those two very similar livery. In fact, they're almost exactly the same. It's just the number that's different. A little bit of white that's been brought into the one car between Chase Herald and Jonty Weiss. So the two of them, as they work their way around in 11th, 12th, and then behind that 13th, 14th, and 15th. That is the battle we're looking at right now. Keep an eye on Byron Mitchell on the back end of Umpi Swart. Don't be surprised if Byron Mitchell goes for a move between now and the, let's say, the 45-minute mark, because that's roughly when they're going to start going, I would tend to think, for their stops. And you probably find Johan Fourie will be one of the first guys to go in. Speaking about Johan Fourie, he finds himself in 10th position, and that's as far forward as he can go.
Yeah, you can see that the group of cars just ahead of him down the road, just ahead of him is Jason Coetzee, and just ahead of Jason is Luke Lucchese. This is a replay of Sandro Bakari in that 72 Ferrari of his, just losing the circuit, going over the curbstones, bouncing off that shark's teeth, and just slightly making contact with the tire wall.
Well, folks, what I can tell you is that there is very few actual accidents that have happened so far. You get off tracks like that, nothing too major, but in terms of actual accidents, very, very few, and that's testimony to the quality of the drivers out there. But Noah Hendricks has got a movie that's going on in front of him, and it looks like this.
Yeah, he's got a whole lot to try and get past as Noah in the 901 Ferrari sitting there in P15. And Noah is keeping an eye here on Willem Botha in that 23 Porsche. That's just there ahead of him as they work their way into that left-hander. And just ahead of Willem Botha is Dario Bussi. And then just ahead of Dario Bussi is Jonty Weiss, and leading the train of cars is Chase Herald. He is there in P11, who just had a personal best of a 2 minutes, .467.
You realize, Frankie, earlier on there was only Byron Mitchell that had broken the 2-minute mark in a lap. Now we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And Stefan Vessel's fighting his way back. He's up to 16th position already. And he, in fact, is directly behind the man that we're riding on board right now, although 5.5 seconds. So keep an eye on Steven Wessels, that is closing probably on the back end of Noor Hendricks, and that by 0.8 of a second on the last lap.
Yeah, I feel sorry for Stefan Wessels. He was right in the front half of the field, and then something went wrong, and that Audi of his just tumbled all the way down the leaderboard. And he's launching a comeback, and he finds himself there in P16, nearly 5.5 seconds behind Noah Hendricks, the man that you see there, who's involved in this fight. Is Hendricks with all those guys ahead of him, which includes Willem Botha, Dario Bussi, Jonty Weiss, and Chase Herald.
So from the top and down, Umpi Swart, Byron Mitchell, Julian from the RS, exactly where they started is where they are now. Having started in 9th position is Leighton Ferree, the young flyer in the Helix Ultra BMW, has worked his way all the way up into that 4th position, and that knocking Tristan Nobrega, who was on the outside of the second row of the grid, down to that 5th position. Somebody that's one of the biggest movers out there in the upwards position is Troy Dolenchik.
Well, there you can see with lost and gained, P16, Stefan Wessels all the way down 11 positions. And as I mentioned earlier on, that happened in the opening lap. And he was a lot lower than P16, that's for sure. But he's had to fight his way there. There is Dolenchik in that 7th position. He's looking at Luke King. And Luke King is now 5.2 seconds behind the Nobrega, and behind the two of them is Luke Lucchese. He's 1.5 seconds behind the combination of King and Dolenchik. A replay here at Stefan Wessels. That was on the opening lap when Stefan in that Audi got sent packing towards the outside of the circuit, and he lost tons of ground, and you see he rejoins there behind a lot of cars. He was at that stage of the game, I think he was stone lost.
The only thing he was ahead of was the DRS sign on the side of the circuit. Everything else was in fact in front of him. So Umpi Swart still leads them out, and he was alongside the grid with Byron Mitchell. Byron Mitchell between 4/10 and 7/10 of a second behind him, and just sticking it out there continuously, not doing anything fancy, just pacing it by the two of them and getting away from this man, Julian from the RS.
Yeah, another quickest lap, 159.533 by Yuri Swart. Yes, Yuri and Byron have now broken away from Julian. They are nearly 4 seconds ahead of Familiaris at this point. And then that man on screen is Leighton Ferree. Only 1.4 between him and Julian, so he's coming after Julian. He's certainly going after him. There's Tristan de Nobrega over the rumble strip. He goes in P5 for Race Driver SA Esports. He sits there in that 5th position, does de Nobrega. And then 4.6 behind him is Luke King, who's been hassled here by Troy Dolenchik, only 0.5 of a second between the two of them. Then Luke Lucchese, he's nearly 2 seconds behind that combination. There you see Jason Kutsia and P9 come through, and he is only 2.1 seconds ahead of a charging Johan Ferree.
Chase Herald, the next man through there, and him and Jonty Weiss have stayed line astern for well, they've been 16 laps, probably 13 of the 16 laps. They've been one behind the other. They've now broken a little bit away from Noor Hendricks, who started in 10th. Dario Busi wanting to have a look up on the inside, and Noor Hendricks deciding that bravery is a better choice as to valor at that stage of the fight, because any harder and ambition would have exceeded adhesion, and he would have been off on the outside of the circuit. So Noor Hendricks dropping down, but now he's got to also keep an eye out for this one, and that is Willem Botha.
Yes,
and Steven Wessels.
And Wessels gets past Botha, and Steven moves up to P15. And Noor Hendricks will be his next target. Noor Hendricks, as a matter of fact, got his nose ahead of Dario Busi, then lost that position to Dario Busi. Look at Yuri Swart, another quickest time, 159.533 by the man that sits there in P1. Raymond Duggan in P18, 3 seconds behind Leon van Wyk. And here comes the Gulf-colored Audi of Graham Stephen in P19, 1.9 behind Raymond Duggan.
Wow, well, that rounds out the top 11 to 27 for you. Noor Hendricks still close onto the back end there of Dario Busi, but we ride with Troy Dolenchik. Now look at Byron Mitchell and Umpi Swart. Up until now, it's been between 0.4 and 0.7 as, oops, there we go, Willem Botha. Is that the first of the breakaways? 30, it's called 33 minutes in, and that's one of the first guys that's going into the pits for what would probably be a scheduled pit stop.
Yeah, 33 minutes I think is a little bit too early, but he obviously had his reasons. He probably thinks if he can go in now and get it over and done with, he'll just have enough fuel to get to the end and maybe leapfrog a couple of guys. So that's obviously his line of thought. It might work for him, I don't know. Yes, Familiara, so now right on his case, 1.2 was Leighton Fourie. Here comes Donobriga, followed by Luke King, who's now under severe attack here from Troy Dolenchik.
Yep, Dolenchik's making the best of it. He's inside of half a second, and I think that Sir Jean Properties car is starting to be now being pushed to the limits. I think that Troy's under the impression that he's got to make moves on Luke King, because Luke is now 4.3 seconds behind Tristan de Nobrega. So to get a top 5, he has to get past Luke King either in the pit stop or out on circuit, and then he's got to go in search of the train driver. Otherwise, he is not going to get a top 5 out of this one.
Oh, Yuri Swart is pumping in the quickest lap times, 159.3, and he's now busy breaking away from Byron Mitchell. 1.2 between Umpi and Byron, so I think he's decided enough playing around. Let me get away from Mitchell and Familiaris, as Dolenchik here on the other hand is doing everything he can to get his car ahead of Luke King.
Should he be able to get past Luke King, Frankie? Do you think he can? He's got the pace to go and fetch Tristan?
I think so. I think so. Luke King is pretty quick out there, but I think Dolenchik is getting a little frustrated out there behind Luke King, and he really wants to get his nose ahead and break away from King and then try and go after de Nobrega. Remember, if he gets into P6, there'll still be 4 seconds between himself and de Nobrega, and he would then like to close that gap. But yes, he's got to get ahead of King first.
Yep, Noor Hendricks and Dario Busi. You would tend to think that Dario Busi would have the pace to be able to make a plan there, but definitely not. The man that's on his way through the field, Stefan Wessels. This man is flying. Let's have a look at the latest lap times. Let's see what he is actually doing. 2 minutes, 1 say he's taken almost 3/10 out of Noor Hendricks, and there's 4 guys that are in the 59s, and for the first time in 17 laps, there's now more than a second between Byron Mitchell and Umpi Swart. Umpi Swart has got the hammer down, he's got the taps wide open, and I think Umpi is dominating this one here at this stage of the fight, and barring unforeseen circumstances. And I've virtually never in the last 2 years seen him make a mistake when he's at the front end of the field. I think he is the dictator in this one, not the train driver.
And all of a sudden, Byron Mitchell responds with a 159.285. So he says, Oompie, whatever you can do, I can do. And he brings it back to under a second again between himself and Oompie Swart. So that one we're going to watch. That one's far from done, as Troy Dolacek is still sitting right on the case of Luke King, being followed there by Lucchesi, nearly 3 seconds behind King and Dolacek. There's Jason Kutsia in P9, nearly 4 seconds, and then 1.8 behind him, behind Kutsia, is Juan Fourie. And still, we're having a look at this fight between Chase Herald, Jonty Weiss, Dario Busi, Noah Hendricks, and watch out for Stefan Wessels. He is on a move. He wants to at least try and make a top 10 after having that horrid luck on the opening lap.
Raymond Duggan also, frankly, surprisingly, almost, well, he's outside of the top 15. That's a long, long way back.
Mitchell is responding with quicker lap times, 159.285, and they are nearly 5.5 seconds ahead of Familiaris. So Yuri and Byron are leaving it all out there. I'm just keeping an eye on that one as you watch Graham Stephen in P17, 1.2 behind Leon van Wyk. There is Stephen, but he's been hassled here by Raymond Duggan. Only 0.5 of a second between the two of them, Stephen and Duggan.
Raymond Duggan's actually doing pretty well to hold on to the back of that. If you think he dropped 0.3 in the last lap, but still there and thereabouts. I thought Oompie Swart had just turned the wick up a little bit and stretched the legs of Byron Mitchell. Byron Mitchell, as you said, Frankie, responds with a 159.2, so 59.4, 59.2 once again. Byron Mitchell is in the house.
And Familiaris is in trouble. It's called Leighton Fourie. There's only 0.5 of a second between the two of them, so Leighton Fourie wants that third position. There we go. There is Leighton Fourie crowding the back end of the Familiaris Ferrari. There's Leighton in P4. He's saying, come on, Mr. Durant Motorsport, get a move on. Your team buddies have left you behind. So if you can't keep up with them, let me go up into third and I will see if I can catch them.
I think it's because of the fact that Leighton Fourie is behind Julian that Julian has not been able to hold on to Byron and Oompie.
Unless there's tactics.
No, I don't
Motorsport
think so.
First, second, third. You guys go. I'll just ride shotgun for you guys.
Well, it's a dangerous shotgun when you've got 0.3 back to Mr. He's a young gun, Leighton Fourie, and you're 6 seconds off your teammates in front of you. Well, he's got a pro sticker, and he's going to have to drive like a pro to stay ahead of the young gun, Leighton Fourie. And Tristan de Nobrega is not far off on the pace there either. He's just 0.3 off what Leighton Fourie is doing at this stage.
Well, it's interesting because we won't know, and this is what makes it so much fun for us. One of two things is happening here. He's either hanging back to give the Durant Motorsport guys a chance to go, or they are just driving away from him. It's one of the two. We won't know.
At this point, they're driving away from him, to be very honest, because, I mean, 6 seconds, why would you be under attack and not backing off at all is Leighton Fourie, and I think he's going to make this one stick.
Yeah, he's going to. So I think that proves the fact that it's the second one. They just driving away from him because he couldn't keep Fourie in there behind him. So I don't know what's going on in that cockpit of the Familiaris Ferrari, but all doesn't seem well because Lucas coming up there behind him. That is Tristan de Nobrega that sits there in P5, only 3.7 behind the man we're riding on board with here, Julian Familiaris.
That 3.7 has been pretty static. I don't think there's much between them. So Graham Stephen is the highest up in terms of who is on the leaderboard having done a stop. But I think that stop of Graham Stephen was very near the beginning of the race. Let's have a look, see what lap that was on. That Graham Stephen came in. That was lap number 1. I believe he's going to have to do another stop thereafter.
Yeah, there's no way he's going to make it until the end after stopping on lap 1 or at the end of lap 1. So he's going to have to do another stop. By the way, Canvas Intelligence, thank you very much. The main sponsor of the MSA GT3 Series. Without you guys at Canvas Intelligence for all that prize money, this would not be able to happen. So Canvas Intelligence, thank you very, very much. I think everybody is very happy that you have hopped aboard again for a second year in a row.
Couple of people that walked away with some serious tom at the end of the 2022 season, and that was obviously it's always a big draw card to ride against the best in South Africa, obviously, but when you put this kind of tom behind it, provided by Canvas Intelligence, it's just an additional spur to get that a little bit closer to the front end of every single race.
Yeah, they sponsored the GTE series last year, which is now the GT3 series this year. So Canvas Intelligence, thank you very much. Right now, Yuri will not be saying thank you because he doesn't like that 0.6 of a second between himself and Mitchell. And Leighton will not be saying thank you neither because he doesn't like it 0.8 of a second between himself and Familiaris. Luke King in P6 still been hassled heavily here by Troy Dolacek, and closing up on them 3.4, well, not really, but 3.3 now between the two of them is Luke Lekezi. Here comes Jason Kutsia. Behind him in P10 is Johan Fourie, and Jonty Weiss has now leapfrogged Chasey Herald. So Jonty's got up into P11, Chase has dropped down to P12.
Yep, Noor Hendricks and Dario Busi, nothing between the two of them for the last 15-20 laps, and I don't believe he's got an answer for Noor Hendricks, who started in 10th, dropped down to about 16th, back up to 13th position and looking pretty good. Stephen Vessels is now closing. Look at that, Stephen Vessels, and I believe he's still going to make up a number of positions before the end of this race.
Yeah, it's only 1.3 behind Dario Busi, who's 0.5 of a second behind Hendrick. So watch out for Stefan Vessels. I think he could go a lot higher than where he is right now. He'll be targeting P13 and maybe even P2, maybe even a top 10. I think he could get in a top 10 if he can get past one or two more guys, keeping in mind we still got the pit stops that has to materialize as well, and only Graham Stephen of the top echelons has made a pit stop so far.
Yep, I'd say it's,
but he'll have to do another one.
Yes, no, definitely, because on lap number 1, unless it's something that's been devised by Luke Lekezi, where you got to do a pit stop, but if you work it out, you can actually go in on lap number 1 and you can make it right until the end. I don't believe this will be the situation here whatsoever. Knowing the man behind it, I would tend to think there would be about 10 laps on either side variation as to when you can go in. So if you've got a bit of damage on your car, you can go in a little bit earlier and still make it to the end of the race. 23 laps done. We are about 30 seconds short of halfway. From here on out, anything possible.
Luke King and Troy Dolacek working their way through your picture. There's a car. That is Stefan Vessels. Now, that is not a bad call. 44, let's say 45 minutes into this one, on the halfway mark, he puts out a P15, does Stefan Vessels, and that's why I said he could still get up in a top 10, keeping in mind that there are pit stops still to come, and he's decided to make his now, and maybe that will help him.
Raymond Duggan getting himself into a rather tight situation with a Toyo Tires car, and unfortunately nowhere for him to go at 3-1. Doesn't always work. The Bigfoot Express car of a JJ van der Merwe coming under the Advent Health Bridge, and looks like he's just a little bit late on the brakes, loses the tail end of the Mercedes-Benz, but he takes it nice and neatly and calmly and gets it going again, and away he goes. Let's go back to the front end of the field. Umpi Swart continues through, get another lap, and I think it's time that we start looking at those lap times now, because nobody's busy. Look at that. Oh, the front 8, every single one of them breaking the 2-minute mark. Fuel loads is coming down, the cars are getting quicker.
Jonty Weiss as well, a 159.8. Hendricks a 159.9 and a 159.9 for Graham Stephen as well. So there's a lot of drivers in 159s as Judy Swart does a 1:59.264. As the fuel is getting lighter, Swart and Mitchell are trading fastest lap times.
Luke King and Troy Dolanchik still very close to one another. Nothing much in that. Troy not going for the move yet. There comes Luke Lucchese. Jason Gutierrez, that was on the second row of the grid, has now dropped down to 9th position overall. Johan Ferree still ahead of that similarly liveried Jonty Weiss and Chase Herald, that ahead of Noor Hendricks. That rounds out the top 13, and Dario Busi is into the pits.
Yeah, Dario Busi into the pit lane with 46 minutes time. He pits out of that 14th position. Does Dario Busi. The car goes up on the jacks. There is Yuri Swart, 0.8 of a second ahead of a fellow teammate Byron Mitchell for Durant Motorsport. They are 7.3 seconds ahead of Leighton Ferree. But Julian in P4, only 1.5 behind Leighton. Julian keeping Leighton very honest indeed as we ride aboard here with Yuri Swart, watching from that bumper cam, looking back at Byron Mitchell.
I must say Byron Mitchell, very smooth, very consistent, not being dropped, not getting too close and eating up his tires. Dario Busi, we see, has gone into the pits. Stefan Kakebreg is in, and Leon van Wyk is into the pits. So the guys further down are starting to make the brakes now and try and come out in open traffic in front of them.
Dolacek is all over the back of Luke King for P6 and 7 as the two leaders come through. Here comes King, and right behind him is Dolacek. And once again, Yuri, a 1:59 dead. Wow, that is great stuff there by Yuri Swart. But Troy Dolacek does not want P7, he wants P6. And he can only go after, or try and go after De Nobrega if he can clear Luke King. But Luke King on the last lap was quicker than Dolacek. He did a personal best of a 1:59.27. And yeah, so it's not really happening here for Dolacek. Really battling to get past Luke King.
Stephen Gatebred making sure he doesn't mess up that battle for them. Troy Dolacek 9 positions up from outside of the top 15 into 7th position. He's the biggest climber. And then, well, in fact, Graham Stephen is 13 positions up, and that's massive. That means he started 26th. I almost think Graham Stevens started from the pit lane, if I'm not incorrect. But Leighton Ferree in 3rd overall and 6 places up. I think that's brilliant stuff. I think Leighton Ferree is definitely showing what he's capable of here. And to stay ahead of Julian Familiares and Tristan, the train driver, De Nobrega, you got to be very consistent over 50 minutes, 49 minutes, and 25 laps.
Oh, Tristan's not going to lose that nickname easy. Not that easy. Right, now let's have a look here at, as a matter of interest, Stefan Wessels is down in P19. He's done a pit stop. He's 4.4 seconds behind Chase Herald. When the pit stops start, let's see how far Stefan Wessels can work his way up the leaderboard.
Is this going to be the lap when he goes in? Nope.
Now, any time from 50 minutes on, I think they're going to start making their pit stops. So right now, I think they'll all go through.
Tristan, top 5. Luke, top 6. 7th. Luke Lucchese might climb out of the... Nope. Even Luke Lucchese goes through. Jason Gutierrez.
No, they're all going to go through.
Anybody for a Coke? Nope. They're all going to stay out there.
Ferree will go through. Jonty Weiss will go through. Noah Hendricks will go through. So they're all busy working their way through. There is Ferree, there's Weiss, and behind him is Noah Hendricks.
Well, it's getting a little bit spread out now. If you ever look at the track map on the far side, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, that's reasonably close. It's only the car in 22nd position, which is Leon van Wyk, that splits them up. I'm surprised that nobody's coming in for a pit stop yet. I think with Byron Mitchell 1.7 behind Umpi Swart. I would tend to think that Umpi Swart would now come in. I mean, he's not going to get much further than that away from Byron Mitchell, and I would think this would be the safest point for him to come in. Although if Johan Verree hasn't come in, then there's no good reason to come in, because he's normally one of the first guys that gets out of the traffic into the pits, comes back out again, and as the guys go in, so he just jumps up the queue.
Gary, as a matter of interest, if I was Graham Stephen, he pitted on lap 1. He sits in P13, there's nearly 52 minutes done. He's got nothing to lose right now. If I was Graham Stephen, I'll dive into the pits, get it done, come out. Yes, he's going to come out 2/3 down, but when the other guys start to pit, he might push himself further up the leaderboard. Just my opinion.
Everybody else looks like they're going to stay out once again. No, oh, there's the first one. There's the first one. Leighton Verree goes in. Tristan de Nobrega goes past. What does Luke King do? Troy Dolanchik also goes. Oh, that was close. He almost hit the cones. Let's see how long it actually takes to go for a drive up the pit lane. That's what it looks like from the bumper cam. Troy Dolanchik, he's in there. Leighton Verree is already on his position. Jason Kutsia coming in as well.
Johan Verree is busy coming in as well. So, yeah, I said anywhere from 50 minutes onwards. So I was more or less correct. Here comes Johan Verree down the pit lane. Let's have a look and see. Graham Stevens should have made that pit stop a little earlier on. I think this could cost him. But it might not be too late if he comes in now. He's going to have to come in now because all the front runners are coming in as well. Yep. No, there he goes through. As I speak, he works his way through. So Graham Stephen works his way up to P9, and that's because he never made that pit stop.
Yep, there's Jason Kutsia. He's still standing in the pits. I see another car that's coming in at the back that looks like Raymond Duggan. Yep, that's Raymond Duggan. Johan Verree is still in there. There he goes out, and just in front of him is Jason Kutsia. So everybody down to 8th position has not been into the pits yet.
Yeah, let's have a look and see. When those top 8 start hitting pit lane, I think that's where it's going to get interesting. Remember that people like Verree and Dolacek will capitalize when people like Graham Stephen, Noah Hendricks and Jonty Weiss make their pits. They will definitely, or should, leapfrog those guys. And then obviously when the others, here they come. Durant Motorsport is in. Swart and Mitchell is in the pits. Surely Familiaris must dive in as well. Will he go in? Yes, he does. So all 3 of them are in. Tristan de Nobrega works his way into the pits. Luke King does not. Luke King goes through, and Luke King has not made his pit stop yet.
Luke Rakiza decides to join them as well. So Luke King is the man that's going to go that 1 lap further. Peter van der Spey a little bit further down, hasn't been in. Neither Zach Foster nor Noor Hendricks. So some interesting stuff happening out there.
Jonty Weiss coming in.
Yep, Jonty Weiss is into the pits as well. Well spotted there in the background. And that means Umpi, Byron, Julian, Tristan, Luke and Jonty is all in. So the first man to come out should be and is Umpi Swart. Oh, look at that. Luke is behind him. Hello.
Well, that's what they wanted.
Yep.
That's what they wanted to run Motorsport. Oh, that Ferrari busy squirming under Umpi Swart there.
Umpi's actually lost out pretty badly. He had 2 seconds on Byron Mitchell when they went into the pits. Byron did a brilliant job to get out, and he made up 1.7 seconds in that pit stop.
Right, so King and Hendricks still has to pit. That will give 1st, 2nd and 3rd back to Swart, Mitchell and Familiaris. As a matter of fact, in this pit stops, remember Leighton Verree was ahead of Julian. They've both done 1 pit stop, and Familiaris has come out ahead of Leighton Verree.
Yep, that as well. So 1 close up and 1 turnaround that we could see. And is that Zach Foster? Yep, that's Zach Foster. It's also on his way out of the pits as well. So Byron Mitchell all over the back of the man that he was between 0.3 and 0.7 of a second. Then he went and pinned it on 0.3. Then Swart broke the 2 minute lap marker and broke away.
Luke King is in the pits. The leader is in the pits. Here comes Luke King. What will Noah Hendricks do? Noah Hendricks is busy working his way around that final corner. Surely Mr. Hendricks must hit the pit lane now. I'll be surprised if he doesn't. He's coming around very tight. Yes, into the pits goes Noah Hendricks.
So Luke King is in, Noah Hendricks is in. That means that the next people coming around will be to retake the lead, and that'll be Swart and Byron Mitchell to Road Motorsport in first and the second positions, and they've taken 10 seconds out of the next man, and that being Julian Familiares. Now, can Familiares get past the end of the pit lane before Luke King? No, here comes Luke King. Where's Julian Familiares? He's coming up the front main as well. It's Luke King. I think Luke King might actually get it. Look at that.
No, he's not going to get it. He's going to lose out to both of them. Yep, they both go through, but now it's game on, because he will now join behind Familiares and Fourie. And Luke King is the biggest mover in this pit stops, because he finds himself ahead of De Nobrega, ahead of Lucchesi, and ahead of Dolacek, Lucchesi and Coetzee. So the biggest winner in all of this is Luke King, because he finds himself now in P5.
We would have expected that Luke King would have been in at least the top 5, 6, 7, 8 for the whole race, and he hasn't been. It's only now that he's really coming into play. We've got 32 and a bit to go, and at 2 minutes a lap, it's about another 15 laps, so we're going to get through around about 45 laps in total.
Well done there to Luke King of Dotsoft Racing. Finds himself in that 5th position, 7/10 of a second behind Leighton Fourie, who's 8/10 of a second behind Julian Familiares. So Durant Motorsport has restored order of 1st, 2nd and 3rd, but Familiares is in trouble, and it's called Leighton Fourie and Luke King. There's Dolacek in P8, and he's nearly 2 seconds. Sorry, talk nonsense. Lucchesi in P8, and he's nearly 2 seconds behind Dolacek.
So Noah Hendricks, that started in 10th, now finds himself in 11th, and hanging on to the back there of Johan Fourie. Can Noah Hendricks pass Johan Fourie? If he does, it'll be one of his most brilliant moments in motorsport.
Yeah, I think that's what Johan would want to avoid, being overtaken by that other Ferrari of Noah Hendricks. Johan is in the top 10. It was a comfortable top 10. It's no longer, because Noah Hendricks is 5/10 of a second behind him in P11. So closing up there on Johan Fourie.
So let's have a look from the top down, as we're almost at the top end of the hour, and these two have dominated from the word go.
Oh, I thought Mitchell was going to have a look up on his inside to attempt to make a move there, but did not. But Swart will know that Mitchell is there. Well, he knows he's there in any case, and but he will know that Byron's intentions are clear to make a move on him somewhere. The question is when, how, if. Can they go for it? Can they get Julian back into play again? I don't know. We'll have to look and see. Time will tell. But I'm still watching Leighton Fourie. There you see him, just behind Familiares, and right behind him is Luke King, and 8/10 of a second behind King is the Porsche of De Nobrega.
Yep, he's right in there as well, and De Nobrega, I think, is going to fancy himself into a top 5 at the end of the day. It's all right in front of him. All he's got to do, when you say all you've got to do, and you talk about Luke King, Leighton Fourie, Julian Familiares, it's not all you've got to do. It's everything you're capable of that you've got to do. But it's right there. It's for the takings. He must remember that 9 positions up, 6 seconds behind him is in fact Troy Dolacek, and you cannot count out that with a half an hour to go, Dolenchik might come and fetch him. It's not impossible. Let's have a look at the last lap times. What is Dolenchik doing? 1:59.8 and also 1:59.8 for the man in front of him. So Tristan just under 1:59.6. So 1:59.9. 1:15, exactly the same to a tenth of a second. It's starting to play out very, very evenly at this stage of the fight. Nobody has really got a run on anybody. The closest fight out there is in fact Noor Hendricks trying to recover that one position that he is back from his original starting position on the grid.
Yeah, the other one is Mitchell trying to get hold of Swart. The other one is Fourie Leighton trying to get ahead of Familiaris. And then the one that you just mentioned there, Hendricks trying to get ahead of Johan Fourie. So it's all happening out there, all little fights all the way down to P11. There's 3 fights in that top 11. So here is Yuri Swart, 0.5 of a second ahead of Mitchell. Byron Mitchell in that second position. They've got a comfortable buffer of 10.6 on the Familiaris that's there in third. He's way, way behind them. We don't even see him there behind Byron Mitchell. There is Familiaris, and we ride aboard with him with that rear bumper cam. And he is looking into that BMW of Leighton Fourie that is just under a second behind Julian.
Yo. What a race. What a brilliant race it has been so far. I love watching all these top guys that we've got in South African iRacing and how things have progressed. Frankie, if you think where we started with the Seta Corsa back in the day and where we are now, it's something else. It's just not the same anymore where we are at. JJ van der Merwe in the Bigfoot Mercedes-Benz. He comes out of the pits and
yeah, but he's had a horror show. He's had an absolute horror show. It's just not working out for Van der Merwe in that 67 Mercedes-Benz, trying to get back into the race again.
It's very strange. I can't understand why he's doing that.
Wonder the brakes aren't binding.
Is that possible?
Don't know. Anything is possible. Oh, there's Graham Stephen coming through. So yeah, he's trying to get himself back into the swing of things again. He's JJ van der Merwe. But Familiaris, on the other hand, is trying to fend off Leighton Fourie. There's Sandro Bakari in that 72 car, running a touch wide, using the track and more. And Sandro Bakari, he's way down the leaderboard. He's in 22nd position.
Yep, unfortunately not where he would like to find himself whatsoever. Johan Fourie still outside of the top 10, and well, Noor Hendricks is in fact ahead of Johan Fourie.
Wow. So while we were watching a couple of replays there, Noor Hendricks got his nose ahead of Fourie, and this is the replay at Noor taking that Ferrari of his ahead of Johan. And Johan back out of the top 10.
In terms of names and people, that's got to be the boss of the day. Noor Hendricks and Johan Fourie never made a mistake. Noor Hendricks outdrove him and made up a position. Brilliant stuff. Noor Hendricks starting in 10th, still finds himself in 10th position. A lot of very big names behind him. But look at Stefan Wessels. Stefan Wessels now 1.5 behind John T. Weiss.
Yeah, it was 1.4. Was watching that early on. Back to 1.4. I think he could maybe get into P12, but I don't know if he'll get any higher than that. Remember that John T. Weiss raced Formula V's in the Formula Libre category at Kalani and also did SA Formula V Nationals. So John T. Weiss is no slouch out there on the track, but neither are these two, our leaders. Yuri Swart, Byron Mitchell, there's 0.3 of a second, and now Byron showed his nose. Byron has showed his nose. There's an hour and 5 minutes done. There's 25 minutes left on the clock, and Byron Mitchell showed his nose there to Yuri Swart.
But Frankie, in all real terms, if you can stay within 0.4 of a second of somebody, lap for lap, corner for corner, are you just following because you want to follow, or is there so little in it at the front end of the field in sub 2-minute laps that you just cannot make the move?
Now remember, at the last one we had the same situation between Byron Mitchell and Leighton Fourie. Remember when Leighton was sitting on his case for most of that one? Is this deja vu, but just two other drivers who happen to be teammates? I don't know. Time will tell. As the clock unwinds, 24 minutes left to go. At this point in time, there's 0.3 of a second between the two Durant Motorsport boys sitting first and second.
If you look at that, when they came into that straight, there was 0.3 of a second between them. At the end of the straight, it was 2, 3, 4, 5 hundredths of a second that it had changed. So you don't seem to think that there is much of a slipstream effect that is really helping you when you're following somebody that closely. We've seen it in Formula One where we've had look at that, Lando Norris recently saying that he can't believe that the drag reduction system gives them so little extra as opposed to the Red Bull, which gets a massive 15 kilometers an hour on the Mercedes-Benz, for instance, on some of the circuits. So that definitely is a bigger reaction to the slipstream than what we're seeing here.
Well, they're going to come up and put a lap there on Stephen Cakebread. There is Stephen going in the distance. He's in 23rd position, and the two of them are going to put a lap on him. Hopefully he'll just keep out the way. Here is Stefan Wessels. Well, I said the highest that he could get up is P12, Jonty Weiss. Only 0.3 of a second between himself and Weiss. That is in P12. So that P12 could still turn around with Stefan Wessels getting his head possibly, or should I say his nose, possibly ahead there of Jonty Weiss.
Well, is there rubber icing up front? Can he see Johan Fourie? Yes, there Johan Fourie just disappeared through the next corner, and that means that he'll be quite aware that he can keep his nose clean. He can get up to Jonty Weiss. That's one thing. Passing Jonty Weiss is another scenario, and once you pass Jonty Weiss, if you can pass him, can you go and fetch the legend Johan Fourie? And even then, you're still out of the top 10.
Yeah, but something is wrong, because Fourie is now nearly 2.5 seconds behind Noah Hendricks, and that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Fourie sitting there in that 11th position. However, Stefan Wessels in P13 wants that P12 from Jonty Weiss. There's 0.5 of a second, and at this point Jonty Weiss will fend him off. Like I said, he's a ex-single-seater open-wheel racer at Killarney, Formula V, Formula Libra, Formula V Nationals. So Jonty Weiss can pedal around here, and he'll know how to make that BMW very wide.
So, the voice of West Farmers Motorsport, stick your neck out. Prediction, Oompie Swart, Byron Mitchell, 20 minutes to go.
Stephen Cakebread just moves out the way, doesn't get involved in that fight.
Make a prediction. What do you say?
You know what, I don't know. They both deserve it. Look, at this point in time, Swart Mitchell, I don't know. You know, they both, Oompie Swart, what can I say about both of them? They're both Western Province karters. They've both taken part in national karting championships. Yuri Swart is a SA karting champion, or an ex-SA karting champion. Byron Mitchell takes that Formula VW Reynard of his around Killarney in 1 minute 10. And Byron Mitchell used to do GTI Challenge and Clubman's. Byron, as a matter of fact, will be campaigning, Gary, that VW Reynard this coming weekend at the Samola Neisner Hill Climb. So, it's hard to say. To predict a winner here, you're going to really have to stick your head out as they're coming up to put a lap on Sandro Bakari.
A big hi to some of the people that are watching us. Brian De Vet, Terry Philander, Peter Hubert, Emil Brunt, Altini, Ashfaq Darwood is in the house as well. Herman Karlitz, Yuri Swart Sr., Chris Liebenberg, Kelly Fletcher, Johnny Vates from PEOTR. All of these folks, welcome, good evening.
Yes,
Great
welcome.
to have
Hello,
you with us.
enjoy.
And that's just one of the platforms that we're on. Remember, we're going out on 720p here, and we're on 1440 on the YouTube on Second Gear Productions.
You were saying Yuri Senior is busy watching, so that question that I answered, I'm sure he'll be rooting for his charger. Kelly Fletcher, on the other hand, will be wanting
Yes.
Byron to pull this one off. So that's going to be interesting there in the Swart and Mitchell households this evening, because they'll be cheering for their drivers.
Yep, no doubt about it. And Stefan Wessels was looking pretty good on a jaunty vice. He had a good entrance to the last corner, but the exit wasn't that great, and couldn't really make use of that as they go underneath the Chevrolet bridge down towards turn number 1. I think where they are at the moment is pretty much where they're going to end. If anybody had much extra to give, it would be now. 59.8, 59.7, 59.9. It's all pretty much the same.
Gary Jonty and Stefan are busy catching Johan Fourie. Johan Fourie's under attack. There's Fourie, and right behind him, here they come, is Jonty Weiss and Stefan Wessels. And surely Fourie isn't going to lose out and drop all the way to P13. If that happens, surely something isn't right somewhere.
Well, he's using all the track and more to be able to do what he's doing. And another one of our top runners that's also on the edge is Leighton Fourie. Look at that. Oof. Only because his name's Leighton Fourie did he get away with that one. Unfortunately, Graham Stephen, he wasn't going to be able to recover it from this.
Yeah, Graham Stephen going into that right-hander, and the Porsche wriggles underneath him, and he stops.
Oh dear.
On the side of the circuit, so not too sure what the problem is there for Graham Stephen.
At that point, he was down in 18th position as Leighton Fourie closes up on the back end once again of Julian Familiaris. We've got just over 16 minutes to go. At 2 minutes a lap, that's 8 laps. That gives us, as we said, around about 45 laps in total. Byron Mitchell on Umpi Swart. Surely, if Byron could have, he would have by now. I think that there is just so little between first and second. I think Umpi Swart, barring making an error, and he doesn't make errors very often, if ever, he's one of the most well-organized drivers mentally when he's out there on circuit. You can't rattle him, you can't chase him, you can't force him. He just keeps on trucking.
Well, I'm keeping an eye on this one. Is Familiaris going so that they just can't get past him? Now, they did pull away from King. Remember, King was right on the case of Fourie earlier on. They've now dropped King, but Tristan de Nobrega is now just over a second behind Luke King, and all of a sudden Luke King is going to come under severe attack from that Porsche that's in P6 of Tristan de Nobrega.
And Tristan's quick enough to stay ahead of Troy. There's still 6 seconds between the two of them, and in fact he took a little bit out of Troy on the last lap. So the man there in that 6th position, I think he's pretty safe to go and have a look at the back end of the car in front of him, Luke King. It's a big call at this stage of the fight, but it's not impossible.
And I won't write off Luke Lucchese neither. There's only 1.6 seconds Lucchese behind Dolacek. There's Lucchese coming through, and just ahead of him you saw that blue BMW. There it goes, of Troy Dolacek.
Well, the two of them on certain circuits are of the very quickest out there, apart from the likes of Umpi, Byron, Leighton and Julian. Here and there Luke King, but more times than not it's Umpi and Byron that is the class act out there in most cars on most circuits throughout the world.
And still, Stefan Wessels in P13 has not got ahead of... Now he gets him. As I so speak, Stefan Wessels gets his nose ahead there of Jonty Weiss. Going into that right-hander, Vice ran very, very wide, coming out to that right-hander, and then going into the left-hander, he just dives ahead of him, and Vessels makes the move stick there on Jonty Vice.
This was the other one. It was Leighton Ferry on Julian from the iRSA. Julian going just a little bit wide, and Leighton Ferry divides Durant Motorsport 3 out of 4.
So a bit of a mistake there by Julian, ran on the dirt, and that gave that position to Leighton Ferry. So there's Jonty Vice now, he's in P13. He is just behind Stefan Vessels, who's 1.4 seconds behind Johan Ferry.
Tristan de Nobrega, has he been able to catch Luke King? No, he hasn't been able to close. The gap pretty similar. They're running to within 0.05 of a second of one another on the last lap. Let's see what happens when they complete this one.
Yeah, he's on the case of Luke King, Gaza. Only 0.8 of a second between King and de Nobrega. So yes, Tristan is closing up on King. King is 1.9 behind Leighton and Julian. So de Nobrega for race driver SA Esports is 0.7 of a second behind Luke King, and all of a sudden King's P5 is coming under attack.
Yep, 3/10 it took out on that lap. Byron Mitchell still on the back end of Umpi Swart. He's running out of options. There's 12.5 minutes to go. If he wants to go for it, he's going to have to go for it now. Should they touch one another and go off, it would hand it to Leighton Ferry, and that would take Durant Motorsport, that for most of this was first, second and third, now first, second and fourth. It would then promote Leighton Ferry ahead of the whole team, and that would be a bit of a disaster. So I don't think Byron Mitchell's going to take any undue wild moves to be able to get through at this stage of the fight.
But then on the other hand, just there where you've gone now, yes, Ferry did get his nose ahead of Familiaris, but there's only 0.5 of a second between the two of them, and Julian is not letting Leighton get away. He's allowed him through, and he's only allowed him through because he made that mistake. He put two wheels on the dirt and went very wide into that corner, which slowed him down. Leighton got through, and he'll be saying, okay, that was a little bit of a mistake. You've got this P3, but boy, it's only for now, because I'm not going to let you get away, that's for sure. 0.5 of a second. Let's see if Julian can fight back.
Just look how hard he's actually driving. That he's actually correcting it every now and again, because the back end wants to step out, turns it in nice and tight, starts getting the power on. Look at that, just correcting it lightly, using that little extra berm on the outside.
You picked that up too.
Yeah, it's a nice little lump. That just shows you the level of copy that there is with iRacing as to what's actually out there on the circuit.
So 0.6 of a second between Leighton and Julian for that third position. From a Durant Motorsport point of view, they'd want a 1, 2, 3. Let's see, as I said, can Familiaris fight back from here? It's hovering around 5/10, 0.6 of a second. So if Leighton thought he's going to pull away, that's not happening. But they must be careful, because Luke King and Tristan de Nobrega is closing up on them. There's only 2.1 between Familiaris and King, and de Nobrega is only 0.7 of a second off Luke King.
Yeah, you can't believe that it can be so close, so long, so far down the line. Stefan Vessels now closing on the back end. I wonder if Johan Ferry's not running with a bit of damage on that motor car. That's not worth it to go into the pits, because you're going to drop so far down, and then just use your driving skill to try and keep them all behind you.
Gary, if you could show us the last lap, I want to see, because I agree with you, something isn't right with the Ferry car. Look at that, 2:01. So that cements what you and I are both thinking. Something isn't right there, because Johan should not be that slow. Something isn't right with the car, but something isn't right somewhere. What it is, of course, we won't know. but it's unlike Johan to be a sitting duck like this.
And for all in 11th position outside of the top 10. And now he's got a train that's starting to form behind him in Stefan, Jonty, Dario, and then Willem as well. And Willem's a long way further back, so leave him out of it. Dario and Jonty and Stefan, that's in there behind. Look, it's all big names, don't get me wrong, but Johan Fourie is normally one of the pace setters up front.
Yeah, but even Luc Leclerc in P8 is having problems. He's 2.2 behind Dollarcheck, so it's not easy for Luc, it's not easy for Johan, but Johan is fighting. He is really fighting hard to hang on to that 11th position. And here comes Stefan Wessels. He takes a wider line. He's going to lose out. Wessels is going to lose out to Jonty Weiss. They are side by side. Wessels on the inside, Weiss on the outside. Wessels will have the line for the left-hander, and Wessels will hold on to that 12th position.
Well, we're just 8 minutes still left, and Byron Mitchell, isn't he tired of looking at the back of that motor car?
Yeah, but it's going to be difficult. They're going to put a lap on Leon van Wyk. They've already put a lap on Sandro Bakari and Raymond Duggan. The next man that Swart and Mitchell is going to catch is Leon van Wyk, that sits in 19th. So they're going to catch the Porsche of van Wyk very soon.
Looks like Jonty Weiss had a bit of a moment. Yep, well, he had nowhere to go with that one, and well, I think he recovered it pretty quickly. Didn't lose too much pace with that one, so not too bad under the circumstances.
Right, let's have a look and see. Here we go. There is Byron Mitchell in P2, 4/10 of a second between himself and the man that sits in P1, Yuri Swart. Familiar Harris, as I said, 5/10 of a second between himself and Leighton Fourie. That fight isn't done yet. That one is far, far from finished, just like the one between Swart and Mitchell is far from done at this point in time. So Leighton is nearly 13 seconds behind Swart and Mitchell, but he's under severe attack here from Julian Familiaris.
Somehow I don't see Byron Mitchell just following through. If you're so close, surely he's going to have a go. I don't know. I don't know how you can spend 42 laps within a half a second of somebody, and nowhere is there an option to get through. And I mean, the two of them are so much quicker than everybody else.
Dario Bussi has gone back into the pit area. Dario Bussi pitting out of P14.
Is that a drive-through?
It could be a drive-through, but have a look and see. I think you're right.
Yeah.
You are 100% correct. It is a drive-through penalty for Dario Bussi.
Chaser Rule says thanks very much. I'll take that. Zach Foster is on his way, getting closer as well, but he won't be able to actually do the catch-up. So it's not too bad for Dario, having done the drive-through. He's still in a reasonable situation. Julian Familiaris closing down once again on Leighton Fourie, but I don't see that changing. I think Leighton's going to hold on to that third position.
Yeah, Dario joined just ahead of Zach Foster, but Fourie and Familiaris, they're going to put a lap on Sandro Bakari. Already you can see Leighton flashing his lights saying, come on Sandro, we are here. That's a fight for 3 and 4 that's heading towards you. Just hold your line so we can get through.
Well, we're just about at the end of this one. We've got 5 more minutes to go. Let's go from the top end down. Leading out from a pole position and still leading out this race is the local champion, Umpi Swart. In there behind him, his teammate. They are in teammate colors. Are they in teammate mode? No, I think every man's racing for himself right now. 12 seconds further back. It just shows you how quick Byron and Umpi have been in this one. Is that Leighton Fourie in the first of the BMWs finds himself 12 seconds further back. Julian Familiaris, the man that he just passed, the V8-1 mobile driver, he in fact is leaving later tonight or first thing tomorrow morning to go through to the Samola Hill climb, as will I be doing straight after this race as well. Luke King in that 5th position, and he's flashing the lights and saying, Sandra Macquarie, please, 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 please. I've got a very quick guy behind me. They call him a train driver, but he rides like he's flying a jet.
Yeah, Dinobriga right on the case there of King, and they're going to put the move there on Sandra Bakari that sits in 21st position as they busy work their way around. Here comes Dollarcheck. He sits there in P7, 5.7 seconds behind Dinobriga, and then Luke Lequez in P8, nearly 3 seconds behind Dollarcheck.
Well, let's have a last look at the gains and losses, because we're going to have to go to the leader and follow him around for the last lap. So the front row of the grid, Umpi Swart, Byron Mitchell, the only time that they didn't lead, Frankie, was when they went for their pit stops.
Yeah, Leighton so far gone up 6, Dollarcheck up 9, Lucchesi down 2. So Stefan Wessels went all the way. Stefan Wessels is now Johan Fourie, and is fighting now with Wessels, and Wessels is only 0.2 of a second behind him. Surely we're not going to see another overtaking maneuver here. Well, why not? Stefan Wessels, remember on the opening lap he tumbled all the way down the leaderboard, so it's a great comeback for Wessels, and he'd love to move up as many positions as he can.
I would actually make him driver of the day, to be very honest, because to come back from there is very, very few guys that can come back from that far down, literally from the back of the pack. He came from 27th, 28th, I think it was 27th position. From 27th up to 12, that means he's made up 15 positions. It might even become 16.
Well, I have to agree with that one. That thought was drifting around in my head, and he is making his intentions very clear to Johan Fourie. If you don't know I'm here, have a look. Here I am. I've got this Audi right on the back end of your Ferrari, and I want your 11th position, and try and go after Hendricks. He won't be able to, because there's nearly 11 seconds between Hendricks and Fourie.
Well, if you have a look at the black number 1 that's going out into the back main, that in fact is Umpi Swart. And that little eclipse of the moon that you see behind him, that is in fact Byron Mitchell. And we are on 28.5 minutes. So is this going to be the start of the last lap, or will the white flag hold out for another lap? Let's see when they come around. I think the white flag is going to come out now.
Well, yes,
yep,
there's the white flag.
There it is. So
as they cross the line.
Yep, the white flag has come out for our leaders, and they are now on their final lap.
Right, so here we go. Let's have a look. Here comes Leighton Fourie. Behind him is Familiaris. I think we need to go with those leaders, because right now Yuri Senior will be screaming his lungs out, and Kelly Fletcher at home will be doing the same for Byron Mitchell. So with one more lap to go, it's I can just imagine how it's going on in the various houses that support Yuri and Byron, because as they fly around, will Yuri hold? Will Byron just hold station? Will Byron make a move somewhere in this lap? Is he going to go for it? There's a 10th of a second. There's a 10th of a second between them. It's on. Let's have a look and see. Now, all of a sudden, Yuri will be watching his rearview mirrors. Byron looks on the outside. He looks on the outside. He tucks right in there behind him again. It's probably going berserk in the various households right now as they're watching Swart and Mitchell go around. Yuri Swart will have gone into defensive mode now, and Mitchell would have gone into attack mode.
Well, I tell you what, if there's only this 2-3 corners that's left for them, can Umpi Swart hold out? Byron Mitchell's made it very obvious that he's going for it. It's the closest he's been. He's 0.2 of a second behind Umpi Swart. But Umpi is just so quick and so consistent. Oh, there's a bit of a mistake. There's a bit of a mistake. It was 2/10 that Byron lost out there. And I think that is going to be the deciding factor. I don't believe Byron Mitchell can get on the back end of Umpi and make a pass. 45 laps and 1.5 hours later, This is what there is between first and second.
Working their way around the final corner. It's a double right-hander as they head towards a checkered flag. It will be Durant Motorsport first and second. It is Yuri Swart that comes home in P1. 0.5 of a second ahead of Byron Mitchell in that second position.
And Leighton Ferries holding out on Julian Familiaris as well. There, the two of them come through from Julian Familiaris. There comes Luke King. And then a little bit further back, there comes Tristan de Nobrega. He's held out on Troy Dolenchik. A good drive by Troy Dolenchik, making up a lot of places. Luke Lekesi. And here comes Jason Noor Hendricks.
Yeah, Hendricks on the case of Kutsia around the double right-hander. That's at final corner. That's at last fight for P9 and 10. And it is going to be Kutsia that will just do enough to stay ahead there of Hendricks.
I almost called him the driver of the day, Noor Hendricks as well. The fight back going to Steven Wessels, the driver of the day to me being Noor Hendricks, because wow, that was one of his best ever.
And Stefan Wessels got ahead of Jonty Weiss at the checkered flag as well. I said P12 will be the highest. No, P11 for Wessels, 12 for Weiss, but he might just, oh, here they come down towards us. Dario Busi, no. Busi will just stay behind Chase Herald at the checkered flag.
Captain Peter van der Spey just ahead there of Leon van Wyk.
All happening out here. There is Van der Spey, there is Van Wyk, P15 and 16 crossing the line. And yeah, that is Leon in the being IT Porsche. That is him finishing just behind Peter van der Spey.
Sure, what a race. And that was the last cars actually coming across the line. Yeah. Oompie Swart, Byron Mitchell started on the front row of the grid and they ended up first and second. Let's have a look at those race results. Brilliant drive. It could just as well have been the opposite way around. I think if Byron had taken the whole shot on turn number 1, Oompie would have been the man that sat directly behind him. 24 points is a big jump off 19 points, 5 points between first and the second position, and Durant Motorsport taking 3 out of the top 4.
Yeah, then Luke King in P5, followed by Tristan de Nobrega, Troy Dolenchik, Luke Lekesi, Jason Hendricks and Noah Hendricks, and just outside the top 10 is Stefan Wessels.
Yep, and Stefan Wessels, a great fight back. Jonty Weiss, Chase Herald, Dario Busi, Peter van der Spey, Leon van Wyk, Johan Ferrie, 17th. Definitely car problems there. There must have been something not right because he's always quicker than that. Willem Botha from Raymond Duggan, Sandra Bakari, Zach Foster, and the list just carries on from there. Graham Stephen starting from the pit lane, and you can see the last couple of guys there that actually did not complete the race as such, just deciding, no, let's give it a miss. We're too far out of it. Let's go and hopefully watch the live stream and have watched the race from there. Frankie, fight back of the day? Stefan Wessels.
Stefan Wessels.
And driver of the day?
Stefan Wessels, definitely.
Driver of the day
I would share it between Wessels and Hendricks.
Yeah.
I think it's a double driver of the day. Stefan Wessels and Noah Hendricks.
Class act, Oompie Swart, never put a wheel wrong.
Yeah.
Uber quick and very consistent. Byron Mitchell, once again, lots of talent. Leighton Ferrie getting in there. Julian Familiaris showing why he is one of the best on main circuit and in iRacing in South Africa. Luke King once again getting himself back into the top 5. Tristan de Nobrega a little bit unlucky to not be in the top 5, but then again, given who's in front of him, it's quite understandable. And then still to beat very quick Troy Dolenchik, a super quick Luke Lekesi, a up-and-coming racer in all factors is Jason Kutsia. to beat out on them. Tristan still did a very good job of staying ahead of those guys as well.
And my bad luck, even though we scores 4 points, would go to Johan Fourie, because clearly something wasn't right.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Right, Frankie, a closing word from your side?
Well, Gary, it's first of all, from an iRacing point of view, looking forward to next week, Wednesday. It's the Porsche Cup, brought to you by ASAP Motor Spares. By the way, a big thanks to Canvas Intelligence for the GT3 Series. Next Wednesday is the ASAP Porsche Cup, also part of the MSA Series. That's from an iRacing point of view. And then this weekend, the big one is the Samola Knysna Hill Climb.
Yep.
That's one of the top. That's South Africa's version of America's Pikes Peak.
Yep.
And Gaza, you've got the luck of the draw. You'll be joining Greg Maloney there,
Sasha Martinengo,
Mr. Arnold Geertz.
All of these guys are going to be there.
All those guys will be there.
So in about 10 to 12 minutes from now, you can send me a WhatsApp and say happy drive, and we will chat with you as we work our way. And by hopefully 3 o'clock tomorrow morning, we should be at the Samola Hill Climb. Folks from Second Year Production Studios down here in Velgedegen, thanks very much for joining us. Next week, the Pro-Am for the Porsche Cup. Then we'll have 3 weeks that we'll be doing the last 3 rounds of the Western Province Sports and GT Masters, and then also the Clio Cup that will be coming around in the next 3 weeks as well. From a Second Year Studio, good night to you, one and all.
iRacing is a sim racing game that combines a true-to-life racing experience with an online community of virtual racers from all around the globe. iRacing offers a multitude of officially licensed cars and tracks, laser scanned with millimeter accuracy. Their car models and mechanical systems are based on real-world physics, engineered in cooperation with manufacturers and race teams. Their skill license system ranges from rookie to pro, ensuring members are always pitted against those with similar skill sets. Members are able to sign up for a weekly race series, compete in time trials, host a private race with friends, and participate in racing leagues created and run by the community. With over 170,000 members, iRacing works in partnership with renowned motorsports organizations like NASCAR to deliver virtual races based on the real-life NASCAR Cup Series, as well as many other series on the NASCAR ladder. iRacing also features team racing, providing a variety of options for members to create and manage their own teams. Race with friends or real-world teammates in full-length endurance events like the 24 Hours of Daytona, Spa 24, or the Bathurst 12 Hour. Additional partners include IMSA, World of Outlaws, Supercars, and IndyCar, allowing members to race in their very own Indianapolis 500, Bathurst 1000, Chili Bowl, and many more iconic events. This is iRacing, delivering the most authentic racing experience short of getting into a real race car. Sign up today at iRacing.com.